Welcome to the Business Power Hour with Darren and the Music Man. Brought to you by Friend Entertainment USA, producing the best concerts for charities and corporations for over 30 years. And CBMS Consulting Services, control your business before it controls you. In association with Area 22 Productions, your multimedia streaming network. Now, here is Darren and the Music Man. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Business Power Hour with Darren and the Music Man. I'm your host tonight, Darren Sayafi. Unfortunately, Norman's still not with us. He had a family situation tonight, but hopefully he'll be back next week. So everything is going well with Norman. We wish him well and hope to see him soon. So as we know, the show is called the Business Power Hour, and part of the business part of the Power Hour is we're working with small businesses, giving you guys ideas by showing you other companies and other people that are out there that are doing things. And one of the things we're always trying to do is build business, right? We're trying to make our lives better. We're trying to grow business. And tonight, you guys are going to love this. Tonight, we have two people here that started a program, or should I say a company, called Elevate, Mary Redler and Mark Kreiger, who created this networking group that is a lot different than a lot of other networking groups. Am I correct?
We think so.
We think so. So
Absolutely.
Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you.
I appreciate you being on tonight. So tell us about Elevate. What is Elevate all about?
Well, I'll give you a little groundwork from the beginning. Mary and I have a very good friend named David Gusson, who is the owner of 516 Ads, 631 Ads, and recently 718 Ads. And I tell you that because it's part of the story. So up until recently, I was the past president of the Queens and Long Island chapters of the Holistic Chamber of Commerce, which most people never heard of. But okay, there were about 80 chapters. So Dave and I, we go to each other meetings. Actually, Elevate Networking is a member of his organization. We all work together, get along very well. So at one of my meetings...
So I don't mean to interrupt you,
Sure.
Mark, but you said that Elevate works with other networking groups, right?
Well, we
now,
work
I've been part of some networking groups where they said you couldn't be a member of other networking groups. You know, so right out of the gate, that's different than a lot of other networking groups. Is that correct?
You can be a member of only Elevate Networking, but even if you are a member of other groups, that's not going to disqualify you from being a member of Elevate. Personally, I think that people who do more networking have more to give because they know more people. They're more actively involved, so there's more of a chance of something coming up where they can make a referral or an introduction. But if they stay only within their own little group, they're very limited.
They're very limited. Well, and that's what happens with a lot of these networking groups is they become like every week or every 2 weeks or every month, however often that these groups meet, it's the same people meeting all the time. Right. And after a while, not a lot of business is getting done. Correct. You know, and that's been my experience with some of the groups that I was part of. Now, I'm not saying that's every group, but from what I see in the stuff that, you know, my research that I've done on that, and you saw before the show when I pulled out all the papers, you said, wow, he's done his research. You guys are different. You guys are really different. So what made you do this? And I'm gonna use a Norman question here, right? I use this question every week because it's Norman's question. I got to give him the credit for it. When you guys were sitting on the playground, right? Were you sitting there going, hey, you know what? Someday I want to be running a networking group.
Back then, there were no networking groups that I know of.
That was right. So
What do kids know about networking?
What do some adults know about networking?
But you know what? Kids could be our greatest example in networking because they're not afraid to talk to anybody, right?
Right.
So that's a great way to go. So I'm in our conversation before the show and stuff, you said you guys were doing and are doing other businesses other than Elevate. So what do you guys do and what got you into this networking and wanting to create Elevate?
Well, what happened was, again, David came to my meetings of the Holistic Chamber. After one meeting one day, he gets up and he says, come join me. Well, I want to talk to you. I said, okay. He said, Mark, you're really good at this. Basically, he was telling me I was a miniature, I think, David Gusson, and he thinks I should do this. Okay.
All right.
So he put a little bug in my head, and that was fine. And then finally, David, after myself and somebody else kept on asking him to come to Queens 718 area, and, spread your wings a little, he had a meeting in North Shore Towers. We happen to have 2 chapters that actually meet in North Shore Towers already. It's a nice facility. And basically what happened was, I'm trying to remember what happened. Okay, so this lovely gentleman, he was talking with another gentleman, and this guy stayed with me the whole night. I didn't realize till after that. I think they ganged up on me. So this lovely gentleman says to me, Mark, I was speaking to David, and I spoke to you. You should start a networking group, but a certain kind of networking group. You don't want everybody. You're looking for specific people, nice people, quality people, and certain things, not for everybody. So I went home, got up at about 4 to 5, which Mary knows, so sometimes I email her and bother her at that hour. And I said, I'm going to do this. So at 4 o'clock, I'm sending out 3 emails. A couple hours later, 3 people said, I'm in. No rules, but I know you, Mark, we're in. I had 7 by noon members. And then I saw there was a need for this, okay, because people were not serviced. Not mentioning names, all these large organizations, the dropout rate or whatever is 20, 30% is huge when you have a big company.
So why do you think the dropout rate is so high?
My feeling is that our organization, we really care about the people. That's who we are. We care about people. Okay, the other group is all about the almighty dollar, and that's my plain, simple answer. It may not be politically correct, but that's what it is.
And we've had those, we had that discussion before the show where we talked about the greatest organizations. When you talk to the people that work for those organizations, they tell you they feel appreciated. They feel good about their jobs because they feel like they matter. And what you guys are bringing is, in your group, is the members matter. You're just not a number, and we're just not collecting money from you to collect money from you. Right? So what businesses are you guys in or were in before you did the Elevate? Mary, tell us about you. What business? Now, I heard something before about a plumbing business?
Yes, that's one of the things I'm involved in. I'm actually relatively new to the business world. I started my first business, which is called Building Your Image, 8 years ago. And what I do is exactly what it sounds like. I help businesses to build their image. I create the websites, I create the logos, set them up with social media profiles. I don't do the social media for them, but I help them get started.
Right.
Do all kinds of graphic design, layout, and
so you do
forth.
Branding and marketing type of stuff.
Absolutely.
Okay, all right.
So it started with that, and within the first week of opening the business, I joined a networking group. And that networking group, while ultimately I left it because I had outgrown it, but initially I don't think the business would have ever taken off without it. I got some excellent referrals, which led to other referrals and led to learning and led to other opportunities. From that group, I became a silent partner in the Entrepreneur Center, which is a training facility for entrepreneurs and salespeople in Melville.
Okay.
And learned a lot about business coaching and so forth at that facility. And the plumbing company also came out of that networking because I have a very talented young son who didn't really have a direction, but was really good with tools and metal and all those kinds of things. And a plumber that I met through networking, I convinced him to give him a shot at working with him. And from there, he became his lead person and eventually became a partner, and now he's running the company.
Excellent.
And because he's young, having the finances to get the company started was not so easy.
I gotcha.
That's where I
Mom
stepped
helped
in.
out.
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
Yes. So I help him with all of the back office stuff for the plumbing company. I do the networking for the plumbing company, which is Polo Plumbing and Heating.
Okay. So Polo Plumbing and Heating, we got your plug in there, Polo Plumbing and Heating. I got a question for you then. Only 8 years ago, you said you started. You got into the business world.
Yes.
Before the show, Mark is going on and on and on about you being able to put systems in place, getting organized, all of those things, right? I'm a big systems guy, as we discussed. One of the things that I always, every company should have the right systems in place so it can function properly and work, effectively and efficiently and take care of their employees and their customers. how did you get so systematized if you only really got into the business world 8 years ago?
Well, just because I wasn't an entrepreneur does not mean that I was not at all involved in business. My
Okay.
first job out of college, I was writing procedural manuals and doing training for information systems.
Okay.
So I had that background, and I took time off to raise my kids, and in between I taught. I was the alumni director of a major high school on Long Island.
Okay.
So I've done a number of different things, and you learn. And my involvement with the Entrepreneur Center, one of the things that we taught to our students is run your business as if you want to franchise it, whether or not you ever do. But if you don't have the systems, you never can.
Right. A lot like what E-Myth teaches, right? If you're familiar with the E-Myth series. Okay. E-Myth is a series of books. And this gentleman actually came out with his first book in 1981. He started teaching this in 1978. And that's all it talks about, the systems and things like that. So I learned a lot myself from my accounting background and working with businesses, as well as doing that type of research and seeing those things. So, you know, and we'll get into the rules and all the other systems that you put into place a little bit later. But Mark, you said you had 7 people by noon,
Right.
right? And you said you emailed Mary that night.
Well,
How did you guys start working together?
Well, what Mary didn't say was I met Mary at a networking group.
Same
Okay.
networking group.
I never really, the amount of money and time I put in, from a financial standpoint, it was a total loss, but I met a lot of nice people. Obviously, Mary, we became very, very good friends. I walked into this organization and she greets me like, wow, and then she knows the products that I'd represent, and I still do, and one thing led to another, so.
That was actually a funny story.
Want to tell it?
So Mark's other business is that he is a distributor for the company called Melaleuca, which has all kinds of natural products and so forth. I was a distributor for Melaleuca like 20 years ago, and I lost touch with the company.
Okay.
And when he walked into this networking group and he says, "Hi, I'm Mark Kreiger." I'm like, "What do you do?" And he says, "I sell Melaleuca." It just said, "Sign me up."
I'm like, what? That was easy.
That was the easiest sale you ever had,
Yeah,
right?
just do everything yourself. Sign yourself up.
Wait a second, Mark. I created these forms that you're filling out. So.
Exactly. And then I have another business called Maintenance Solutions, where I deal with industrial chemicals. I sell at the Department of Public Works, industrial chemicals, lubricants and stuff. But my love is Elevate Networking, because we both love to help people.
It's very obvious that you have a passion for this. And that's one of the things that I find a lot of people that come on the show, and not everybody, but there are a lot of people that come on the show. I say, well, how did you get involved in what you're doing? And it's their passion. It's something that they've worked towards, because 90% of the people that come on the show didn't start out doing what they ended up doing, right? And you guys kind of found where your passion is and what your bailiwick is. And you still have other businesses that you're involved in and you're working on, but this is really where your passion is. So let's talk about, where is Elevate located, and how can people get in touch with you if they want to come down, meet you guys, experience Elevate?
Well, as far as location goes, we are trying to be everywhere from Eastern Queens to Western Suffolk.
Okay.
So far we have 6 groups. 2 of them meet in Queens at North Shore Towers. 1 of them meets in Great Neck. 1 of them is in West Hempstead. 1 is in Seaford. 1 is in Hauppauge. And did I leave something out?
No, that's it.
Okay.
So, but you have 6 groups already. And when did you start this? You
March of
took-
2018.
March of 2018. So in that short span of 4 months, because that's basically what it's 5 months, you've went from 7 people to now 6 groups throughout Nassau and Suffolk County.
Right.
So you guys got to be doing something right.
Absolutely.
Well, we both know a lot of people, and I think that over the years that we have been involved in business and networking, I think we both have a reputation for being trustworthy, and people are willing to take a chance.
Okay.
We're only asking for a 3-month commitment, and that's after 2 trial meetings.
Well, that was my next thing. We're going to get into that. But you know what you still haven't given us?
The website.
The website. How do we
Yes.
get in touch with you? If we
Okay.
want to get in touch with you, we
Yes.
want to get involved in Elevate, even just come down and check it out. Tell us how to do that.
Our website is elevatingnetworking.com. It's not just Elevate, it's elevatingnetworking.com. And the phone numbers and emails are on the website. It's a lot easier to remember elevatingnetworking.com than it is to remember a phone number.
Yes, don't go to elevatenetworking.com because it is a different networking group.
Yes, it is.
Okay? But elevating networking, because I did that today, is
Yep.
Elevate Networking, and I went, whoa, this isn't them.
Yes. Unfortunately, we were not aware of them when we started.
But elevatingnetworking.com
Yes.
is how to get a hold of them. Do you want to give out any phone numbers or email addresses or anything like that?
Well, the email that we use for most of the business correspondence is info@elevatingnetworking.com.
Okay, so info@elevatingnetworking.com is the website or the web address or the email address that you want to utilize to get in touch with these guys. Come on down, check it out. You heard where they are. They're going from Queens to Hauppauge, on the island. So you can come out, check them out, see what they're all about. We encourage you to do that. So now let's talk about the rules. Okay. We talked about the fact that you're very systematized and that, and I went to your website and I was very impressed with you have the rules, and that's the way you label it on your website. And I said, oh, okay. And I printed them out. And as you see, people, this is 9 pages of rules that
It
are on here.
doesn't seem as long on the screen.
It doesn't seem as long enough. Well, the text is large, I gotta say, but it lays it out. It makes it very succinct as to what you're allowed to do, what you're not allowed to do. One of the things I did notice, though, is that you don't have chapter presidents and treasurers and things like that. What it says on the website is that you guys run all the meetings. Tell me about that. Why do you do that?
Okay. We both feel that having somebody whose only interest is the benefit of the chapter members
Right.
makes it better for everybody in the chapter. Even though I mentioned tonight that I have several other businesses, and Mark mentioned that he has other businesses as well, when we are at Elevate meetings, we don't talk about them. I'm not there for Polo Plumbing, I'm not there for Building Your Image, I'm there for Elevate. That's my business when I'm at Elevate. And it's the same thing with Mark. So there's no issue of being in competition with somebody else in the group. There's no issue of trying to do things that are best for my business rather than for the members.
So it doesn't become cliquish within the
Doesn't
group.
become cliquish, and there's a little bit more oversight because we actually encourage our members to tattle, to tell us what's going on.
Right.
Whether it's good or
Kind of
whether
like,
it's
Mommy,
bad.
this one's doing this to me.
But we've seen situations in networking where somebody had things in their past that made them not particularly trustworthy, and people knew about it and were mum because it was all about making sure that you had the numbers.
Right.
And that's really not what we're all about. Looking at us, you can tell that neither one of us is a child. We've been around the block a few times. We're fortunate enough that this is not going to make our fortune.
Right.
We don't have to worry about taking everybody, whether they're good for the group or not, and we don't have to worry about keeping everybody, whether they're good for the group or not. What we want is for people to be able to trust one another, because what's networking all about? People do business with people they know, like, and trust.
Right, absolutely.
And if you can't trust them, what's the point? So,
well, you're not going to have a good business relationship. You're not going to get a lot of referrals. You're not going to, as I told you guys, the majority of the business that I get are referrals from people who refer me because they said, hey, this guy's done a good job for me, and they refer me over. Very rarely do I get that phone call of, I looked you up and I found you on the internet, although I just got one of those recently, and that's how I found you. Very rarely. It's typically, and I find this with most of my clients too, typically they're doing business with people they know. People will do business with you. They're not doing business with your product. They're doing business with you, and you know, and whether they trust you and like you and all of those things. And that's fantastic that you look at it like that, because I've been part of networking groups. We've talked about this.
Sure.
And after a while, you kind of feel like a number,
Yes.
right?
And also, if there is someone in the group that is a known problem, it starts to eat the group up from the
We have
inside
that problem
out.
with Norman. So
But the other thing I want to add
Can't
is
do that.
it allows us to be razor focused, to focus on each individual member, which they never get that attention. We make connections outside the group. We're all about them.
well, that's one of the things that I noticed in there, and you talked about it in your rules and your networking rules and things like that, was creating meetings outside the meeting. You know, one of the things in the networking meetings that I go to, I preach that all the time, is get out, have a cup of coffee with somebody, because that's when you're going to get to know them. You're not going to get to know them in that hour and a half in these networking meetings. You're going to get the, hey, how you doing? Because everybody's trying to get around the room to everybody they can get to, right? Especially the new people, just to get that. You don't get that, hey, you know what, that warm and fuzzy,
Yeah.
and that trust.
Yes.
And there's no way to build that trust, but without human contact. You have to have that human contact, that human interaction in order to build that trust.
And when you're in a group, what tends to happen is that there's the power teams, sort of,
Yep.
where it's like these two industries go well together, or these 4 or 6 or however many.
Right.
And then there's somebody who nobody goes well with their industry because they just do something very different.
Right.
And those people end up feeling very left out. But if you take the time to get to know people, sometimes it doesn't even matter what they do for a living, because you find that you're bonding over, you both love the same kind of pets, or or the same sports, or you have vacation homes in the same place,
Right.
or whatever it is, and the relationship develops. And then, even though it's not part of what you do for a living, when something that comes up that has anything to do with them, they're on your mind because you care about them.
Right.
So.
Exactly, exactly. You know, and one of the unique things that I saw about your meetings too is that you have, again, you have these systems in place, and you actually have a checklist that you want people to fill out before they even come to the meeting, right? So how often, and let's be honest, how often do people actually do this before the meeting? And let's talk about the checklist. This checklist, because it's not saying, you know, and I'm not going to name the group, but it was in one of those groups where if you didn't have a lead for somebody, you had to throw $1 in a bucket.
I was in that group.
You know, and it was like you sat there, you know, going, okay, well, who can I give as a lead? And you just were making stuff up, so you didn't have to put the $1 in the bucket. Right?
Which, in my opinion, is stealing from the person who you gave that referral to, because they could have spent that time better doing something else,
I agree
rather than
110%.
essentially cold calling on your lead.
And when
Right.
somebody gave me a bad referral, that was the one I had to call 6 times to find out it was a bad referral.
Referral.
Not once or twice.
Because the person's
It's always that case, right?
Yes.
Because it was always I would get a lead. I would say I made the phone call, and they would go, "Oh, did you talk to so and so?" And you would go, "No, I made a phone call. I left a message." So you're thinking, "Oh, I should call him again because he's asking me if I got in touch with him, so they must know I'm calling." And we know that that's not the case, right?
Well, it's true. What I love about that checklist is that there's no pressure. I tell people, what do you mean? Don't you have accountability? Absolutely. You fill it out, you hand it to Mary and I at the meeting. Nobody knows what you're doing. We use it as a barometer to see how people are doing. Maybe
Right.
they need help. They don't realize the private meetings are good. And we value a lot of things, as you saw on the sheet. It's not just about the instantaneous referral, which is not easy.
Right,
Yes.
because, you know, as you guys identified, and you're very good with this, you know, there's a book called Find Your Why, right? Simon Sinek, if
Yes.
you're familiar with Simon,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And
Isn't it
Simon,
called Start With Why?
was that?
Start
With Why, and then he's got another book, Find Your Why.
Okay, I
All
haven't
right?
found that one.
And then the other one that he's got is Leaders Eat Last.
I've read that
All
one.
right?
Yep.
Okay, so, and that's where I'm going with this,
Mm-hmm.
is leaders eat last, because what you guys are doing is now you're sitting here going, well, maybe somebody's got a problem. If they're not performing, you know, it's not a matter of, because a lot of these groups, if somebody's not performing, they're kind of like, just like you said, it's that power group. Somebody is pushed aside, and you lose them.
I have a good idea or something to share. Just because you've been networking for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, doesn't mean you know what you're doing. A lot of times we have private meetings with people, and I sit with them and I explain to them, so you're not there to sell each other's goods and services, but you're there to educate each other. I actually take notes to them because I could never remember all these people in
Right.
a way. And it's all about the information. But I just loved it. We value people. That's what it comes down to.
Well, and that's why I encourage everybody, and I do this in my group, meet with everybody outside of the meeting, because, like you said, you can't remember all this stuff in the hour, because typically, if you think about it, right, it's about an hour and a half each meeting, but you get half an hour, 45 minutes of networking, and then you're sitting around going, okay, when is this going to be over? Because somebody else is talking. Half of the people aren't paying attention to what's going on because they're worried about, okay, now I got to go to another meeting.
And our meetings are the exact opposite.
Right, well, and that's what it sounds like to me. It's like you guys are doing it very differently, where you're encouraging participation.
Well, one of the things that we do is that the last half hour of our meetings is dedicated to education or brainstorming.
Okay.
So sometimes we have a guest speaker come in who can, help our members in some way by educating them. Sometimes we'll be running it. The most recent thing that we did was, is the customer always right? How do you
Right.
handle bad customers?
Yeah.
And it has become a very lively discussion. Everybody gets involved. Everybody
Right.
gets excited about it. And when the time is up, people still are talking.
Yeah, because one of the things I do with my clients is I consult them on firing bad customers or bad clients, because we all have had that, where we've had customers and clients that, you know what, they're not worth the time, they're not worth the effort. It's that old 80-20 rule, is you're spending 80% of your time on 20% of your revenue. And, it's those clients that you want to get rid of.
Yes.
And those clients that are holding down. So we got a lot of people on the line tonight. Hi, guys. We got Paul and Bill, and we got a whole bunch of people talking to each other. If you
That's
guys
a good
got any
thing.
questions for Mary or Mark, please shoot them up for us, and, we'll answer any questions that you got. So,
I have one thing I'd add. We
Yeah.
also limit our membership per group. We
Okay.
don't want 30 and 40 and 50 and 60 people like some of the other
Right.
chapters have, God bless them. It's limited to 24, which means in a year you will be able to talk. 2 people speak for 10 minutes each.
right.
So within a year, with 24 people. When you go 30 or 40,
Right.
it doesn't work as well, obviously.
So how do you work with, you get people who have never networked before, or are new to networking, or are not comfortable networking, all right? And you talk about they have to get up and give a 10-minute speech. Do you guys work with people who are nervous about doing that? And because you get the ums and the ahs and the oohs, and
Who's not nervous?
they could be, when you talk to them one-on-one, they're great, right? When they get up in front of people, then all of a sudden they shut down. So,
While we don't include public speaking training as part of membership, we do mentor the members who are new to networking. Sometimes I think it might even be a little bit overwhelming, because here's somebody who's brand new to networking, and they think they're going to come to a meeting and be fairly anonymous, and then they get Mary and Mark, both of us.
well,
Where do I go?
I mean, that's something, right? We get people who come and you hit it right on the head with, you get a lot of people who join these networking groups and they want to be anonymous, right? But that's not the whole purpose of joining a networking group, is it?
It's funny, because in my Building Your Image business, where I do the websites and
Right.
so forth, there are people who are very concerned about their privacy. They don't want their phone number on the internet. They don't want their picture on the internet.
Right.
They don't want information on the internet. And it's like, you can't have it both ways.
Right.
If you want to attract people, they have to know that you're here. So you have to get past
Well,
that fear.
that's the whole point of networking, everybody, is that you have to be seen. You can't just join these things and expect results. Like anything, you're not going to get results by just showing up. You're going to get results by working it, by making things happen.
That's the point of the checklist.
Right.
Because if somebody comes to us and says, this really isn't working for me, and I open up their file, and there are a bunch of blank sheets in there because
Right.
they haven't been, doing much of anything, it's like, well, maybe
Well,
if
how
you have
oft-
some more meetings.
Right. How often do you get people come to you and say, I don't know what to do. I don't know, like, you got things on here, I don't know what to
That
do. I
hasn't
don't know.
happened yet.
Okay,
Okay. We do talk about it during meetings and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that, which might be why it's not happening quite so much, you know. And also, I think a lot of the people who are coming have at least gotten their feet wet with networking.
so it sounds
before.
like a lot of your meetings, you're talking about, you're educating people on really how to
Absolutely.
network. And it's just not, hey, I'm so-and-so from
That's
ABC
that's boring.
Insurance, and I got more insurance to sell you. Like I said before, if I meet another insurance agent, my head's going to explode. But I got to ask you this question, because this is, on this checklist, is you have a question, or it's not a question, but what are the things on your checklist? Useful introductions, but you said not business referrals.
Right.
Right? Mm-hmm. Please list the names of the members who received those introductions. So, useful introductions, but not business referrals. I'm in a networking group. Aren't I supposed to be referring business to somebody?
Of course.
Okay.
We do
but
want
why-
them to give business referrals, but sometimes, and just for example, you have a background, you're an accountant.
Right.
So if you've been handling somebody's books for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
they trust you, you know all their secrets, and if you refer them to somebody and it doesn't work out well, that's really bad for you.
Right.
And that makes a lot of people very hesitant.
Because everybody, and this is what people don't get a lot of times with referrals, is it doesn't matter if you say, hey, I know you're looking for this, and I just met somebody who does this. I don't know them at all, but this person does this. I'll pass on your information to them and have them call you. It doesn't matter that that's all you did for them and you laid it out like that. If it goes bad, your client's coming back to you going, you introduced me to them. Because
Right.
it's happened to me.
Right.
It has.
So that makes people very hesitant to refer their clients when
Right.
it comes to business. But when it comes to an introduction, there's no obligation. So if you introduce somebody, of course, right now the brain is going blank in terms of one of those ideal connections.
Right.
But they certainly exist.
But the type of connection you're talking about is that useful connection where somebody gets to know somebody, right?
Mm-hmm.
And okay, let's build that trust so we can make that referral and see what that person's all about. Because people do business with people that they trust, like you said before, and people who they get along with, they like. They want to be around those people that they like. Those people that do business with just anybody are not happy people for the most part.
As far as referring goes, that's not an easy thing, especially for somebody who's new. But if you're in business, you're always meeting people. So I can call up Mary and say, Mary, I just met this person. I don't know them from Adam,
Right.
but I think he's a nice person, she's a nice person. There could be some synergy. I've gotten some of my best referrals on a regular basis from somebody who has no synergy from me, except we have a nice, warm relationship, so they always think about me. But we also have, from not just beginners, we have some of the top-notch businesses in New York, in elder care or this care, whatever, and they're not looking for that quick little hit, or we have a top-notch printer in our organization. He'll sell you an imprinted pen, a couple $100. It's not what he wants. He'll take it. He wants that introduction that maybe he'd get 20 of those a day or in a month
Right.
or whatever. So introductions, and most places don't even have a place to put introductions down on the names that we don't want to talk about, although we learned a lot of good things from them. One is that we have one per category. You got to have that, obviously.
Right.
But the bottom line is that introductions can be much more powerful than an instantaneous referral.
Well, for
Yes.
example, there are some people who are just naturally great connectors. They're always thinking about this person would be great with that person and all that stuff like that. If you introduce somebody to one of those people, they may end up getting dozens of referrals out of it in the future, but it wasn't a referral when you gave it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Norman's like that, right? So it's like we all know
Yes.
Norman, and Norman's right away. You introduce yourself to him, and you tell him what you do, and you know what? I got to introduce you to this one and that one and this one, and right away he's making those connections, and that's what you want because you never know, right? You just don't know where your next client or your next customer is going to come from. Or vice versa, where you can, somebody who needs something. And where are you going to make that connection?
And here's another thing. When I first started networking, I was in a one per industry group, and the mindset of not wanting competition,
Right.
was there. So it took me a while to realize that there's no such thing as my competition. Okay. Now it's like, if I see somebody who does something very similar to what I do, I want to meet them. I want to get to
Yep.
know them. I want to see if we could work together. I want to pick their brain. I'll let them pick my brain.
It's funny because I preach the same thing. I always say, there's plenty of food on the table. Let's all eat,
Plenty of room.
Because
Plenty of
you don't
business.
know. I work with other accountants, and they may specialize in things I don't do, and we feed off of each other, and we refer each other to doing different things. As well as coaching. I do the coaching and stuff. So you never know who you're going to meet, what you're going to meet, and like you said, people create this, for lack of a better term, phantom thing called competition. And it's really not competition, because we're not playing in a finite game. We're playing an infinite game where it's just going to keep going and going and going. There's no end to this for us, right?
Correct.
This is something that's always going to go. So there's no competition. It's, well, how can we work together, and how can we just build on what we have and be successful, right?
Absolutely.
And we can't be successful alone. We need other people to do it. And that's one of the keys.
I know that, I don't know if I shared this with you, Mary, a lot of people like our groups because we sort of like screen for it, for lack of better words, but there's a warmth. A lot of people having relationships that they just met outside the group, and it's enhancing their business, obviously. But we have a warm feeling. When I was in those other groups, most of the people didn't talk to you. If they
Right.
couldn't get business from you, there was no warmth. There was no friendliness. It wasn't genuine.
And you know what? I go to some networking events on occasion where I feel that. It's almost like, okay, these people are just, okay, I'm here. Let me say my spiel. I'll get up. I'll do my 30-second elevator pitch. I'll sit down. I'll sit through the meeting. And then as soon as the meeting's over, they're gone.
Right.
And half the time they're checking their phone while
Right.
Yeah.
And they're checking their phone. So
Yep.
if people want to get in touch with you, how do they get in touch with you?
The best way is to go to our website, elevatingnetworking.com. You could also find us on Facebook at Elevate Networking LLC.
Elevate Networking LLC. So on
Yes.
Facebook, it's Elevate Networking
Yes.
LLC. Okay.
Yes.
All right. But your website is elevatingnetworking.com. All right.
Yes.
Just make sure you go to elevating, okay, with the
Yes.
the ing in the
Yes.
middle there. Let's talk about how you guys are different in the sense of dues. Every networking group that I've ever joined has always been the same thing. Pay your annual dues, and then your chapter, you have quarterly dues to pay for the breakfast or the dinner or the lunch or anything like that. So tell me, how does it work with Elevate?
Well, we bundle it together, the food and the dues.
Okay.
That's the first thing. Which the intention was to simplify it, but we're finding that different venues have different prices, so it actually makes it a little bit confusing because in the more expensive places, the dues are a little bit higher. But typically, most of our groups are $125 for 3 months.
Okay.
And we only ask you to commit for 3 months at a time. Once someone has proven themselves and we've proven ourselves to them, if they want to extend for a longer period of time just to make the bookkeeping easier, then they're welcome to do so. But we only ask for 3 months at a time. It allows people to try us out without feeling that it's too much of a risk for them. It allows us to see if they're the kind of people that we want in the organization, because we really want this to work, and the trust is so important.
Okay, so you're telling me, wait a second, your business is networking, and you're telling me that you may not want business? You may turn business away?
Yes.
Why?
Because our goal is to put people together who really can develop relationships and trust one another. And if somebody does not seem to be trustworthy, or if somebody just doesn't want to try, then they're not going to work well. And then before you know it, we're going to start being like all of those other groups.
Very similar to running a business is you need to know, like we said before, those customers that really aren't worth it or aren't part of it, as well as the employees that we have that really aren't trying and are costing us more. A lot of times we hold on to employees longer than we should, okay? And we give them every chance under the sun to kind of self-correct, and that's our problem, is the self-correcting. If you find somebody who is not fitting the bill, we'll say, as a member of Elevate, do you try to counsel them and try to get them to kind of figure out if they're going to be part of the program, if they want to be part of the program? Because I've had clients where they've hired me to help them, but they don't want help, right?
They want to say that they asked for help.
They want to say, they say all the right things, and they say, yes, I'm going to do this, and I want this, and I understand what I got to do, and all, but they don't want to. Right, and it's more they're doing it to say it. Do you find that with some of your members?
We're still new, so a lot of the situations that might come
Yeah,
up
so you're-
might or might not
You're,
have come
you're
up
only
yet.
5 months in. Yeah.
We have had some people that we have had conversations with and decided that it would be best to not proceed together at this time.
Okay.
You know, we haven't had to throw anybody out. That's not our goal. And whenever there's any kind of an issue, what we do is we offer to them to meet with both of us at the same time,
Right.
so that there's no he said, she said, it's going this way.
I
or that
went,
way.
Mark, I'm telling you, Mary told me this, and then somebody goes, and Mark told me this, and then when you guys get together, you go, what are they talking about? Because we didn't tell them any of that. Right? You guys are always talking, so you're on the same page all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And sometimes people forget. It's like the old thing. Well, I'm going to go to mom and tell mom this, and then I'm going to go to
Dad.
dad and say this,
And the easiest
hopefully
way-
I can get over on somebody, right?
The easiest way to make sure that everybody's on the same page is to have everybody in the same room.
Absolutely.
So
We've had people say, do I have to fill this out, Mark? I know Mary a long time, or I know. Absolutely. It's a professional organization. You fill out a form,
Right.
and we go by
Oh,
it.
you're talking about the application.
Application, but
Yes.
even the checklist.
Yeah.
Everybody has to fill it out. If not, you're not for us, and we're not for you. And
Right.
why? Because we care about people first. It's
Right.
all about them. It's not about us. We just happen to be there as facilitators.
It's so refreshing to hear you guys talk about that because, again, you know, we've told our horror stories about networking groups and stuff. You feel like a number, right?
Yeah.
A
You
lot
don't
of
feel like
times.
you are a number.
You are a number, yeah,
Absolutely.
because it's the head count. And
Exactly.
It's well, if your membership's not up and all these other things, and it's very refreshing to see that. So, again, where are you guys currently meeting, and where now? You said you want to get into Western Suffolk. You're in Hauppauge. That's Central Suffolk.
Well, not
So-
really, if you consider the Forks.
No, this is. So, I mean, what's a goal for Elevate over the next, 6 months, 7 months?
Right
Where do you guys
now-
want to be?
Right now, we actually are putting the brakes on expansion
Okay.
because we want to grow the groups that we have. We have 6 groups.
Right.
They're not very large yet. And while we do intend to cap them at 24 members, as Mark said earlier, we also do want there to be enough people so that there's some mass and there's more energy going. Up until now, what we've been doing with the smaller groups is we're not using our standard format. Our standard format is, first 15 minutes are open networking,
Right.
and then everybody gets 60 seconds to do their introduction, and then 2 members each get 10 minutes to do a more major presentation, and then the last 30 minutes is the educational brainstorming.
Right.
In the smaller groups, we're letting them talk for longer, we're brainstorming for longer, we're being a little bit less formal, so we're sitting around a smaller table, and it really is becoming, Mark had mentioned earlier, there's the warmth.
Right.
It really is becoming like just having breakfast with your friends.
Yeah.
But they're business friends. It's
Right.
not, just shooting the breeze and talking about sports. You're getting something out of it. It's just,
Can you talk about sports if you want to?
Before
if
or
that's
after
what
the
you do
meeting?
for a living.
Well, you got 2 different answers now. No, you said before or
Before
after the
and,
meeting.
no, but I said before and after.
Well, before and after, but Mary said, well, if that's what you do for a living. So
Right.
I got just 2 different answers now, Mark. So now I can say, hey, you know what,
We're
I
not
do this for a
perfect.
living.
Well, as
I-
much
I
as we have a
tease.
lot of systems in place, there are a lot of things that people might surprise us with, that
So you finding like a lot of the systems that you put into place, you've taken what you consider the best practices of what you've seen, put these systems into place, but I'm getting from what you're saying is that you're flexible.
yes, we have to be.
You understand that
Well,
the
that's one
systems
of the
aren't gonna be
advantages
perfect.
of being a small business as opposed to being a huge corporate colossus.
Right.
You're able to be nimble. You're able to change with demands and what you see happening.
Right.
We don't want to be just like all those other groups. It's not like we want to grow up to be one of those big corporate groups. If we happen to become huge, oh well, we'll figure that out as
We'll
we
figure,
go
we'll figure
along.
that out. But you put the systems in place. And I like the fact that you're saying we're putting the brakes on until we feel that we got this right. Right? And everything is filled out. And we're just not spreading out all over the place so we can come up and say we got, 15 different groups and we're all over the place and all that other stuff. I think your growth strategy is excellent. And that would be one of the things I would recommend to my clients is don't try to be everywhere all at once. Try to bring it in. Let's focus on the areas that we got. Let's make sure that we got our systems into place and that they work. And then we can grow from there. Because there's only two of you, right?
Yes.
So what happens when you have so many meetings that you can't be at every one? Have you thought about that?
Oh, absolutely.
Well, phase one of that is that one or the other of us will be there.
Okay.
If it gets beyond the capacity of two people, even if we're separated that way, we'll figure that out then. I think that we would be more likely to hire people to serve as facilitators than go with the standard route that the other groups have gone with, because we really do want the facilitator to be there entirely for the benefit of the members.
Excellent.
Another thing I'd like to throw into the mix, we also foster visiting other chapters. We have control over that. When I was in the other groups we all were in, you could visit other chapters. They would soon step on you,
Right.
and even talk to you, really.
Right.
So they get a feeling of an overall organization. It's not this chapter and this chapter. We talk about the organization
As a group.
as a group. If you bring somebody down that joins another chapter, it's not hurting your chapter. You're helping the organization.
Right.
We're going to have meetings, which you probably read, outside the group in the evenings. You don't have to attend. It's all about developing relationships, and they like that. They love. I even call them, say, you meet, or we call them up. Mary, you need to meet this person. And we facilitate that. The other groups don't do that. They're
Right.
too big, or they don't want to do it.
You can do it, but you have to take the initiative. No one's going to tell you this is a good match
Well,
for
a
you.
lot of these networking groups, as we discussed, like you said, if you're a member of this chapter, you're not allowed to go to that chapter. You're not allowed to visit this one. And people do it, and things like that, but it's not, what's the word? It's not one of the things that they're pushing. They're not pushing the organization as a whole. They're trying to really limit people to what group they're part of, which is not a really great way to go. As I mentioned to you guys, I'm in the Air Force Auxiliary, Civil Air Patrol. Yeah, I'm a squadron commander here on Long Island. Okay, at one time I was a group commander. I had Westchester, Dutchess, Putnam counties were all within it. And I had 9 squadrons and almost 300 people that I worked with, and I visited everybody, and we created a unified group, and we did the same thing. We promoted going to other meetings. We promoted everybody working together, things like that. So it's very important
Team concept.
to team concept, and that's what we do in the Air Force Auxiliary is create that team concept, and you guys are doing the same thing. It's fantastic. So one more time, if people want to get in touch with you, how do they do it?
ElevatingNetworking.com.
Just remember the ING.
That's,
ING, right.
yes, our little slogan under it is we're elevating networking to a new level.
There you go. So there you
It's
go.
nothing to
Elevating
elevate.
Figure it out.
You guys sure are. So, like I said, the time was going to fly by, right? I said that in the beginning.
Yes. Oh,
So
yeah.
we're coming to the end. But before we do that, I want to talk about, we started talking about something very interesting, Mark, that you're involved in, and I know Mary helps out with it.
She's very involved in it.
Very involved in it. So tell me about the charity that you started.
Okay.
and how it works. Because to me, it kind of blew my mind that you were able to get this going and how fast
That's
it's
the whole
going.
story, but we don't have enough time, so I'll
Right.
be very succinct. It's a free clothing pantry. It's called Beautiful Memories Gemach. Now, I thought Gemach was Yiddish. It's actually Hebrew.
Okay.
It means loving acts of kindness. There's a whole history to that. So let me get to what we have. We give out free dress clothes and work clothes, etc., in mint condition from the wealthiest neighborhoods on Long Island to Manhattan. We service the inn, Catholic charities. I have confirmation dresses, communion dresses, bat mitzvah dresses, 800 gowns, tuxedos for little
You have
boys.
800 gowns.
Wedding gowns,
Wedding gowns,
bridesmaids'
so
gowns,
this,
mother
this
of the bride.
really, you're helping out the people that really can't afford to do this. Now, I've never heard of this before, your organization. So, I mean, 800 gowns, you can help a lot of people.
That's only 25% of what we have. It's
Really?
huge.
Wow.
It's probably the biggest gemach probably in the country.
So how do people get in touch with you to find out about this? I mean, what you're giving out clothing to
So
people
people-
who can't afford
Right.
to
They
go out and buy
They
this.
normally come through an organization, or if you have a friend, it's in my synagogue that houses it.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to be careful. I'm there alone with women, so I have to just can't let anybody come in. Obviously, you have to be careful. So we deal most with organizations. Unless you have a friend you want to refer, it's not a problem.
Right.
But if
okay.
anybody out there wants to learn more, they can go
To
to beautifulmemoriesgemach.org.
Or now spell
.org.
gemach.
Yes, GEMACH.
.org.
People love the Beautiful Memories gemach. That was her idea. How to use the
Okay.
word gemach, but beautiful memories, and people love it. They just love
Beautiful memories. Right. And you were telling me that you're constantly getting phone calls with people donating.
it. Absolutely.
Right?
So,
So-
we're looking for a few things. We'll always take clothes, but it's not really our challenge. We need people who want to help. It's the greatest feeling in the world to help people. I had a woman after 7 years. I looked down and she was like my wife's little person, and she says, "I know why you do this." And she says, "That's interesting." I said, "Because everybody asks me, and you're going to tell me." And I
Right.
looked in her eyes, and I knew she knew why I did this. She said, "Because it makes you feel good." For
Yeah.
about 3 seconds, I held it and I started laughing. Absolutely. I'm not so nice. I just like helping people, and I get to feel good. So we have winter coats, raincoats. We dress from head to toe. We send clothes to Israel, Dominican Republic, Haiti, and now we took on Jamaica.
Wow.
We work with Broken But Not Destroyed. I have a soup kitchen on the Upper West Side. We started giving them winter coats. It spread like wildfire. So we've been giving this guy probably upwards of hundreds of winter coats during the summer, because when the men come there now for lunch, they want a winter coat or they want slacks or a
Right.
backpack. We're actually having a fundraiser.
Yes, well, it's not a fundraiser,
Right.
it's a supply drive.
Right.
Okay.
With
So
the,
tell us
toge-
about the supply
yes,
drive.
Together with our friend David Gussin of 516-631 and 718 ads, we're going to be hosting an event on October 10th at the Jones Beach Hotel.
Okay.
And it's going to be a networking mixer, and there'll be food and an open bar, but we will also be collecting all of these supplies that Mark just mentioned for the homeless men who
So where is the
frequent that soup
Jones
kitchen.
Beach Hotel?
It is not in Jones Beach.
Okay.
It's
That's
right
why
up
I asked, 'cause
against.
I'm sitting there going,
It's
I
right
don't
up
know.
against Cedar Creek Park in the south end of Wantagh.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So-
Okay. So if people want to get involved in that, they want to help out by giving you the things that you need. You know, what
Or
if
volunteer.
somebody doesn't have this, but they want to help out with distribution and helping you guys get the word out, right?
Contact us.
Just contact
Yeah.
us. Just go to Beautiful Memories Gamach.
Gemach.
Gamach. Okay.
You get it.
.org.
Yes.
All right. And
Or
that's-
they could contact us through Elevate. They'll still get us either
Or you
way.
can contact them through Elevate, because you guys are running this thing also,
Yes.
right?
We run
So
it
you
all.
guys have more than enough on your plate.
And by the way, the one thing we
Do you
didn't
guys
say
sleep?
about Elevate, standing up. We have our little the little yellow part of our logo. It's a halo, because one of the things that's built right into the way we systematize things is that we'll be giving 10% of net profits to charity every quarter.
So wait a second. So you're telling me now you have a business, a networking business, that not only you're thinking about the customer first, right? But you're also now taking part of the profits and you're donating it.
Yes.
Wow. That's fantastic.
And I think that's one of the reasons why we're attracting such nice people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's people who want to help people. And that's what you get, and that's what you're all about. So I really thank you guys for being here tonight. You guys did, I mean, it just flew by. I wish we
did.
had more time because I got so many more questions to ask you guys. But good luck. Elevatingnetworking.com.
Yes.
Beautiful memories, gamak.
Mach.org.
All right. Get in touch with these guys. Help them out. You know, come down to Elevate, see what it's all about, you know, and let's have a good time. So I want to thank you guys again for being on the show.
Thank you.
All right. And
Thank you for being a great host.
well, thank you. I appreciate that. And we're going to close the show now and say goodnight. All right, everybody. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. Next week, tune in. We have another great guest coming up, but we have a very special announcement that we're going to be doing next week also. So I want everybody to tune in because Norman should be here. You know, it looks like he's going to be here. That's going to be a great announcement to bring him back. But there's also going to be a very special announcement around this guest that's coming next week. So tune in next week, 8 o'clock Wednesday. I'm looking forward to having everybody come in. Thank you for tuning in tonight, and everybody have a great week. Good night, everybody. Today's show is brought to you by Friend Entertainment USA, producing the best concerts for charities and corporations for over 30 years. And CBMS Consulting Services. Control your business before it controls you. In association with Area 22 Productions, your multimedia streaming network. If you're interested in being a guest on our show, visit our website at www.bphdmm.com for more information.